Hey there, it's Stephanie Shea, Chief Astrologer for janspiller.com with your June astrological overview. So we've had a busy past couple months astrologically. June, I would say, calms a bit. The main reason I'm saying that is because Mercury's going to station direct. We also made it through Eclipse Season, woohoo! So as we move forward into the months June, July, August, it looks like a little bit more clear sailing as far as less disruptive astrology, shall we say. And I don't see as disruptive astrology as always bad, because sometimes we need that. We may be heading way too fast down a path that is not the right direction. So when things go retrograde or we hit the eclipses and we have to reflect and see things we hadn't wanted to see, well, that's actually helping us. But everyone does kind of enjoy when things are kind of cruising in the planetary world. So let me dive into what is going on in June. First of all, we start out with the sun in the sign of Gemini all the way through the 20th. So happy birthday to Gemini friends. And on the 21st, we're going to have the solstice as well as the initiation of Cancer season. And in Western astrology, this is always the case. There are certain signs anchored to the equinox and solstices, and that's how Western astrologers determine, what sign everything is in. It's not actually following the constellations in the sky. This causes confusion sometimes, and there is a whole other branch of astrology called Sidereal Astrology. They follow the constellations. Hey, everyone's got their method. I kind of think all the roads lead you to the same place. But Jan Spiller was a Western astrologer. I'm a Western astrologer. So I always think, oh, it's the solstice in June. If you're in the northern hemisphere, it's the summer solstice. If you're living in the southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice. Either way, it's the initiation of Cancer season, which really brings us back to our connections with loved ones. Cancer is a lot about family. It's about establishing a secure home base, being surrounded by the people and the things that you need to feel supported and successful, and feeling gratitude for the people who have supported you. So this is one of my favorite times of year. It usually feels like a happy time to move into. And what's going to really help lighten things up too, I think, is Mercury stationing direct on June the 3rd. Now, we will be feeling the shadow phase of this until about the 19th, but no, as we move through June after the 3rd, we're finishing out that retrograde energy, and it will be better timing to start those new ideas that most likely did pop up around maybe around the last solar eclipse on April 30th, or maybe during the month of May when Jupiter moved into Aries and things started feeling very active in our minds. So this is good news. We will have a couple of outer planets going retrograde. This is a much more subtle energy, but it's something to note because it does create sort of the backdrop or our environment, I like to think. So Saturn is going to station retrograde on June the 4th, and this cycle will last until October 23rd. And what's significant about this is that Saturn, as it is in its retrograde cycle, is starting to tighten back up with its square to Uranus. If you follow astrology, I've mentioned in these videos before, the Saturn-Uranus square. It was happening all last year. It's finishing up this year. It's kind of a big deal because these two planets are influential. Okay, Uranus likes to shake things up. It's a planet of revolution. Saturn is tied to our systems, our structure, somewhat long-term commitments. You can see how this is a very tense energy when they're operating in this square. And that's going to be exact again in October. We're not done with it. We've been getting a break from it because Saturn's been moving forward, but now it's going to move its way back kind of into that square formation. So just know, I think on a bigger picture level, it is what is underlying some bigger changes that have been occurring in the world with obviously government systems, structures, the way that we have been doing, I think, even business, I think of Saturn, and in our personal lives as well. Uranus brings a message of freedom and liberation. So I think everybody personally, when they feel this Saturn-Uranus square, thinks, what do I need to be liberated from? What have been long-standing rules in my life that are ready to be broken? They don't apply anymore. These are the kind of things that can surface. So remember, this retrograde cycle, 6 months, and the square is not exact until October. And after that, the energy is going to start kind of changing. So none of this happens on one day or overnight, but it's really good to be aware this is the climate that we are entering. Now we've got a full moon on June 14th, and it's at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is, to me, kind of a fun full moon. Sagittarius is an energy that rules adventure and travel and having new life experiences, learning something new. It's the sign of both learning and teaching, particularly higher education. So in our own lives, we may have realizations. We may be learning something. We may feel that thirst for adventure, or if you've been planning a new life adventure, sometimes you can see the results of that around the full moon. And we've got Venus in the sign of Taurus until June 21st. This is kind of a nice placement for Venus. Venus is ruled, or is the planet that rules the sign of Taurus. So it's very comfortable. And I really like Venus and Taurus for helping us with our self-care and seeing, okay, actually being uncomfortable isn't always a good thing. You know, it's not always the best to think that you should be pushing it so hard that it hurts. No pain, no gain, that kind of thing. Not so supported under Venus and Taurus. This is more about what's going to support me for the long term. What can I do to strengthen myself? Because I see Taurus as a very strong sign. In a way that actually feels comfortable. Maybe this isn't the time to push it. Now, what's going to be conflicting with that energy a bit is Mars in its home sign of Aries. Mars in Aries might think no pain, no gain, or might think, yeah, let's just push the pedal to the metal and see how hard we can go, and it might seem exciting. I always think, that's great. Mars is the ruler of Aries. It's expressing really well in this sign, and I think it can overdo things. I am an Aries, so I kind of feel, sensitive to Mars, and especially when it's back in Aries. So just remember, it's great. Any energy or motivation that you feel from this Mars in Aries this month, it's really great timing to go with it. Like I said, we're coming out of the Mercury retrograde, but to pace yourself. Hopefully Venus and Taurus will help counterbalance that and remind us we can accomplish a lot, especially if we take those little rest breaks along the way. Now, what's going to happen towards the end of the month is a Neptune retrograde. So Neptune stations retrograde June 28th. This cycle will last until December 3rd. This is a time to really take it easy as well. I think we can all feel a little bit foggy if Neptune is stationing retrograde. Just those days around the 28th, maybe 3 days before, 3 days after, definitely on that day. That's not really the day that people will be doing their best thinking. And if you can lighten your schedule a little bit, just so you can maybe do the things that feel easier to do on autopilot, where you don't have to be laser sharp. Yeah, that would be a good call. It's not the best decision-making time. Even though we're out of Mercury retrograde, it really would be better to wait a few days after Neptune has stationed retrograde to make a final decision. And what's interesting is in the same day, June 28th, there's this new moon at 7 degrees of Cancer. So here are people going to set their new moon intentions, but yet Neptune has stationed, is kind of in this foggy place. So I would always recommend writing down new moon intentions. You can do that And if you subscribe to janspiller.com, you'll get emailed the best window of time for these new moon intentions, because it's not always clear. Just because the new moon is on a day, there might be a better window of time that day or even the next day for the most powerful intention setting. So that's something to keep in mind. And knowing that this Neptune has gestation, you may want to review your intentions at the next new moon and just kind of see, is this still what I want? Because like I said, we're not doing our clearest thinking, but it is important to do those new moon intentions, because some of the things, there's a lot of intuition for sure available, I think, with Neptune and with the moon being in the sign of Cancer. So that is probably the biggest thing to do, is to tune in to yourself and think, okay, I've got to really get clear, not think about what other people might expect me to achieve, but what is it that I really want, and what do I intuitively feel is the next best thing for me to do. So that could be a good way to approach your new moon intentions as well. And I hope that you have a wonderful month of June. I look forward to seeing you back with the July overview video.